Firstly, let me first thank the Republic of Chad, Kingdom of Jordan, Federal Republic of Somalia, and of course the United Kingdom for hosting this really important event. I am Rina Galani, as Sophie said. I work for the United Nations and I'm the Climate Crisis Coordinator, focused this year on the El Nino affected countries and La Nina affected countries. But I have previously 25 years of humanitarian experience. And things certainly have changed in the last 25 years. We've seen the world move much faster, become much smaller, but we've also seen the urgency of addressing climate in countries that have complex combination of issues that they're facing. So today, let me turn straight away to our distinguished and honourable panel members to discuss how we can learn from each other, how we can look forward and address challenges, but also how we can rapidly scale up financing in the countries that are most affected and least responsible. With that, I'd like to please turn first to introduce our first panel speaker. Minister, we're going to actually start, sorry, I've just lost the order, so you're going to have to bear with me for 1 second. Yes. All right, I want to make sure I get the order right because we did speak about that earlier. Minister Khadija El-Makazumi, it's an honor to have you here. You were appointed Somalia's Minister of Environment and Climate Change in 2022. You bring over 15 years of diplomatic experience, and I've had the honor to follow that, including roles in conflict resolution and international negotiations. In the current role, you're focused on advancing Somalia's climate action, integrating climate change resilience into your national policies. Minister, if you could share with us, please, the experience of Somalia, including how you've secured financing, including the recent financing from the Green Climate Fund. What lessons can you share from the experiences that you've learned that we can draw, other states can draw from and we can learn from, and basically how to advocate for more inclusive financing? Thank you, Minister.
Thank you. I want to just good evening, long day, and what I love about the COP is bringing everyone on the ground, different nationalities. So it's really great being seeing everyone. I want to thank the UK Pavilion, thank to the Minister of Development, the Minister of Jordan, my colleague, Chad, and Stephanie from GCF, my sister. It's a really important question, but I want to go back to say previously about the Somalia and climate change. I'll go back to this. Somalia, the Minister of Environment and Climate Change is almost now 2 years and 3 months, starting from the scratch, the ministry, and with no policy, with nothing. So this was really tough, and how can we secure climate finance? And this is what we did from preparing our National Adaptation Plan, our NDC, and it's strategic from the Minister of Environment, 5 years strategic, at least we know where we want. And Somalia really wanted to, especially for the climate resilience, food security, this is the area that we focused, and this is the priorities that we wanted in the beginning. And we had a partner of FAO that was really working with together in that specific area. And we met GCF for the first time, second time, with the COP last year, COP29, and this is what our president, Dr. Hassan Sheikh Mahmoud, has met Mafalda and Stephanie together in the COP28. So from there we have, the president has talked about the situation in Somalia, and we had invited the GCF to visit Somalia to see things on the ground. And thanks to the GCF that has accepted the invitation and came in this year, January, in Somalia and see things on the ground. At least that we had prepared all our regulations, our documents that exactly we wanted. We knew that exactly what we GCF were looking for and what area they're focusing on it. So we prepared with the team, and from there we had to meet the cabinet and private sector, civil society, the whole government with the president, of course. and on all UN areas. And from there, the GCF was approved, securing Somalia with the 100 million, doing it with the FAO called Climate Resilience OCBAD. And from there, from last year, Somalia was, not last month, was approved. It was the fastest project done at GCF, was only done it within 5 months. There was the single one project, and it was really 5 months, the quickest one. And last month we have been approved from the board, and this is the area that we have been able to secure this 100 million for Somalia. And as well, that I want to thank UK government that was really working together and became as the champion, Somalia champion for climate finance. And we became last year a task force partner with the UK for the effort for the working together. So I want to thank as well GCF and the UK. And the things that I have been, what I could able to advise was other countries to able to have a strong political and leadership as well. This is the much important, I see it, that need to focus on it, and the clear technical direction that able to work of policies and the direction that and the document that really needed. I think this is the second area that need people to be focusing, and partnership and open communications with all the partners. This is the area that I think I could able to give advice for other countries that are able to work. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister, and thank you for sharing that success. It's incredible to see that when everyone works together and there's political will and technical knowledge and partnership, that things can happen in any context. Let me now turn to Stephanie Speck. Stephanie is the head of special initiatives for the Green Climate Fund. You have over 20 years of experience working across 25 plus countries, driving impact through strategy, innovation, and communications. You've advised heads of states in post-conflict regions on climate action, and you have a broad knowledge of financing and climate financing in particular. Stephanie, could you talk to us a bit about what the Green Climate Fund is doing to facilitate better access, to ensure effective, fit-for-purpose climate finance for vulnerable and conflict-affected settings, and what are the Green Climate Fund's next steps in these areas? Thank you.
With pleasure, and good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Well done to making it to this point in the day. One day at COP feels like about 20 years in the outside the bubble. It's a delight to share the story based on the Somali experience. The Green Climate Fund is the world's largest multilateral climate fund. We have $16 billion committed at the moment, and we are mandated to take high risk in countries to provide funding for mitigation and adaptation, driven by country priorities. We have about $2 billion committed already in what we euphemistically call fragile and conflict-affected settings. Actually, we find that can I use the word colonial in a UK pavilion? I just did. We actually prefer to say vulnerable communities and underserved countries. We think that's far more respectful of the territories and countries and settings in which we wish to work. We have $2 billion already committed, and we have at least another $500 million to invest over the next 3 years of our programming cycle. And we are committed to making sure that more money gets to vulnerable communities faster, quicker and smarter. And we put that to the test with Somalia. As the Minister said, we were able to complete several funding proposals within a 5-month period and ensure that Somalia will benefit from more than $110 million of financing within a year. In fact, the FAO grant that was approved at the board meeting was dispersed within 24 hours to FAO. So if we can do it once, we should be able to do it multiple times. There were things about the Somali context that made it easy to do. We had UK energy behind us, and UK government was really instrumental in making sure that we were paying attention to those underserved countries in our portfolio, and we thank you and pay tribute to that increasing and continuing energy, we hope. There was a very willing government counterpart from the Minister Khadija through to the President, so that there was a very strong political setting And I had lived in Somalia for 3 years, so I knew what we could do in that country. We can't repeat that with every country that is underserved in our portfolio. So what we need to do now is repeat Somalia, but in a systematic way. What can we do at GCF to make sure we have the tools and the modalities that make it easy to come to us and ask for money, and it makes us easy to take the requisite risk to invest in places that perhaps other funds are not willing to go. We are publicly funded. We take that responsibility very, very clearly and very, very deeply to heart. We are entrusted with many of your tax dollars. We need to spend that responsibility. In these conversations, risk always comes up. And I just want to perhaps close on the note that I think actually we often think the risk is investing in countries with perhaps government institutions that may be weaker than neighbouring countries, or that may have been at the heart of a protracted crisis or conflict. I think actually the risk is not investing in these countries, and that's something that GCF takes very seriously. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. And really, that last sentence, I think, summed up what most of us in this room believe, that there's a risk into not acting today and investing. Let me now please turn to Minister Hassan Bakir Jumur. I'm hoping the translation's working, Minister. It's okay? Great, thank you. So, Minister, as Chad's Minister of Environment, Fisheries and Sustainable Development, you bring a huge wealth of knowledge and expertise in climate financing, a focus central to Chad's environmental and sustainable development goals. Your leadership since October 2024 has prioritised innovative climate finance strategies to advance environmental protection. Minister, how is the government of Chad pushing for a more innovative and accessible finance for climate adaptation? The floor is yours, Minister.
Merci. Merci, Madame la modératrice, Madame le ministre, Monsieur, chers auditoires. Je voudrais avant tout remercier l'organisateur de cet événement pour l'opportunité qu'il nous accorde pour parler de la situation climatique de notre pays, qui est le Tchad. Le Tchad est en train de traverser des défis très énormes. Et puis nous avons des énormes difficultés vis-à-vis du financement climatique international. Et je voudrais vous les citer. Il y a 3 grands obstacles ou barrières climatiques pour bénéficier de financements internationaux. Je voudrais les citer, si vous me les permettez. D'abord, il y a une sous-évaluation, en premier lieu, il y a une sous-évaluation chronique des besoins réels. Notre plan national d'adaptation initial estimait le besoin à 5 milliards de dollars sur 10 ans. Or, en 2024, uniquement, nous avons dû mobiliser plus de 5 milliards de dollars juste pour la réponse d'urgence aux inondations. Et cette réalité démontre à quel point nos cadres d'évaluation traditionnels sous-estiment gravement le besoin réel. En deuxième position, nous avons des procédures d'accès complexes et des contraintes institutionnelles. Des procédures d'accréditation qui sont très longues et très complexes. Nous avons notre Fonds national de l'eau. Nous avons aussi notre fonds spécial en faveur de l'environnement. Nous avons aussi une ONG qui s'appelle ADES. Et pour accéder à l'accréditation, nous sommes vraiment confrontés à d'énormes difficultés qui nous posent problème. Et des exigences de cofinancement qui sont souvent irréalistes, qui nous bloquent aussi. Et la multitude de sources de financement créant une charge administrative excessive. Une capacité institutionnelle limitée pour développer des projets bancables. Notre contexte d'État fragile ne correspond souvent pas aux critères de financement standards pour les autres États qui ne sont pas dans la même situation que nous. Donc nous avons besoin de faciliter à ce niveau. En troisième position, nous avons la nature interconnectée de nos défis, qui est le troisième ou la troisième barrière qui nous pose problème. Le Tchad accueille plus d'1 million de réfugiés venant du Soudan, de la Libye, qui nous traînent. Nous faisons aussi face à de multiples menaces sécuritaires régionales. Les impacts climatiques amplifiant les vulnérabilités existantes. Le mécanisme de financement traditionnel ne parvient souvent pas à adresser ce nexus climat, sécurité, développement pour notre pays. Pour surmonter ces différents obstacles, nous proposons plusieurs mécanismes financiers innovants, tels que des réformes immédiates dans les structures suivantes existantes. La création d'un guichet spécial pour les États fragiles au sein du Fonds vert pour le climat. Simplification des procédures d'accès pour les pays les plus vulnérables. Intégration des pertes et préjudices dans le calcul de financement. Modalité de décaissement rapide pour la réponse d'urgence. En deuxième position, nous avons de nouvelles approches de financement. Le développement d'instruments de réduction de risques adaptés aux États fragiles. Création de mécanismes de garantie spécifiques pour l'engagement du secteur privé, bien évidemment. Des partenariats innovants pour la restauration des écosystèmes et l'agriculture intelligente face au climat. En troisième position, nous avons des solutions de financement intégrées. Entre autres, des mécanismes qui adressent le nexus climat, sécurité et développement. Un soutien aux mesures d'adaptation transformationnelle. Un renforcement des capacités pour le développement et la mise en œuvre des projets. Et un accent sur la protection des substances durables. Le Tchad soutient la position du groupe africain en faveur d'un nouvel objectif collectif quantifié de financement d'au moins 1 300 milliards de dollars par an. Ce chiffre n'est pas arbitraire, il reflète la réalité des besoins sur le terrain. Je le répète, ce chiffre n'est pas arbitraire. Nous avons vraiment besoin de ces fonds pour pouvoir répondre à cette fragilité, climatique qui frappe nos pays africains. Les récentes inondations au Tchad démontrent que nous ne pouvons plus nous permettre des estimations conservatrices. Nous devons fondamentalement repenser l'échelle du financement climatique nécessaire et développer des mécanismes innovants qui correspondent à des réalités des États vulnérables. Madame la modératrice, je voudrais vous dire que nous sommes un État vulnérable face au changement climatique. Nous avons l'insécurité qui nous frappe aux confins du lac Tchad et nous avons vraiment besoin de fonds, de moyens financiers pour pouvoir pallier à ces problèmes. Donc nous demandons aux bailleurs, aux partenaires financiers et techniques du Tchad de nous appuyer, nous apporter un appui conséquent pour pouvoir décanter cette situation. Il faut dépasser les stades de parole. À chaque COP, on parle. Mais on n'arrive pas à trouver des solutions idoines pour contrecarrer le changement climatique. Parce que nous qui subissons le plus les effets des changements climatiques et nous polluons les moins, parmi les États qui polluent les moins. Donc sur ce, je vous dis merci pour l'organisation de cet événement, combien important pour les États fragiles. C'est une tribune très importante qui permet aux États précaires de demander des soutiens, d'appui conséquents pour pouvoir pallier à ces problèmes. Je vous remercie sincèrement. Merci beaucoup.
Minister, thank you very, very much. And I think your plea for further international collaboration, and just also to say that the government of Chad itself has hosted large numbers of refugees and contributed to our collective common good. And so, yes, your plea to look inwards as well is really, really important. Let me now turn, please, to Minister Radaide. Minister, you've served as Jordan's Minister of Environment since 2021, and you've been a driving force behind Jordan's climate ambitions, including a national target to cut greenhouse gas emissions by 31% by 2030. You've championed many other initiatives, including working with the Green Climate Fund to bring in more financing into your country. Minister, could you share the experience of Jordan regarding climate finance, including how it is being used to address issues around climate-related displacement, particularly? Thank you, Minister.
Well, thank you very much, and it's truly a pleasure to be here with you today, especially at this late hour. And the attendance in the room is a show and a release of the convening talent and ability of the UK, and so we really appreciate the opportunity of being here with you today. You've asked about Jordan, but let me just give you some background about how this whole thing started. So in COP29, there was a declaration championed by the UAE and the UK, and it's called the Relief, Recovery and Peace Declaration. And before that, at COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh, His Majesty, the King of Jordan, has launched the Climate Refugee Nexus Initiative. The Climate Refugee Nexus Initiative came about because Jordan is in a climate hotspot. Our neighborhood, where Jordan is slated to witness the impacts of climate change by an additional 20% compared to the rest of the world. At the same time, we have had an extraordinary increase in population. The increase in population was both organic, people of Jordan increasing, but the sharp increase was due to waves of refugees that have descended upon Jordan for many decades. The biggest increase was almost in a span of 10 years during the Syrian crisis, where Jordan has welcomed about 15-20% and additionality to its population. Where Jordan stands today, about a third of the population of Jordan are refugees. So it has one of the highest, if not the highest in the world in terms of refugees. So the compounded effect of climate change, being in a climate hotspot with a sharp increase in population, triggered the thought of there is a link between those two. It complicates the ability to meet your national targets. And let's keep in mind one thing that escapes many people. When people move from one country to another, they move with their carbon footprint. So when 1.5 million, 2 million people move from one country to another country, you've got an additionality of 2 million people with their carbon footprint. And we know what carbon footprint is. It's everything from the food, the water, the transport, the impact on infrastructure, the demand on all sorts of things. So then the host country, with its NDCs, and in this case, as you've mentioned, Madam Moderator, 31% by 2030, became quite complex for Jordan to meet. So this is a situation that Jordan is going through right now, but let's also keep in mind that Jordan is one of the poorest countries in the world when it comes to water. The threshold for water poverty, according to the WHO, is 500 cubic meters per capita per year. Today in Jordan, we are at 61 cubic meters per capita per year. And if we continue this way, we're going to hit somewhere in the low 30s by 2040. So this has an impact on food security. This has an impact on drinking water. This has an impact on our ability to provide our industries, our tourism, and all of the sectors of economy with their needs. So when the UK and the UAE launched the Relief, Recovery and Peace Declaration, we cross-checked the Climate Refugee Nexus with the RRP, and we found that there were many intersections, positive intersections between the two. And I had a good meeting with the FCDO secretary at the time, and we agreed that our Climate Refugee Nexus initiative should be a solution to the RRP. This triggered the thought between us of how do we build on this relationship and this need, and that's how the Jahiz project came about, which is supported by the UK, by the FCDO, by the UK Met Office, and IWMI. Now, at the same time, we're looking at finance and how to pull in the climate finance. And at this COP, this is the COP where the NCQG is going to be discussed, the new collective quantified goal on finance. The goal is to increase this finance significantly. At COP28, the first global stocktake since the Paris Agreement showed that we are severely behind in meeting our climate targets. And to be able to reach that, we have to accelerate the process. We do have the solutions. The technology is already at hand. We know what to do with renewable energy. We know what to do with all sorts of things that are needed to meet these targets. But to be able to scale and apply and implement, you need the finance. At a national level, you need to do your homework. You have to have a clear NDC. You have to have a clear green growth action plan. You have to have a clear national adaptation plan. You have to put all of these pieces of the puzzle in place, because the most important thing when you want to ask for something is to have clarity in the ask. So when you want support, when you want financial support, you have to be able to go to the GCF, the GEF, the Adaptation Fund, and bilaterally, and the MDBs with a clear plan, and tell them this is what I need, and this is what I need to implement to be able to meet my targets. The 31% that Jordan has put forward, as a country that produces 0.06% of the greenhouse gas emissions globally, yet setting an example in the region, is where we have this issue. So we have put conditionality on the 31%. 5% is Jordan's responsibility. 26% is hinged on international support. So we're very clear in terms of that relationship. We're very clear in terms of what the ask is. Our projects touch 6 sectors, including ecotourism, water, energy, waste management, agriculture, transportation. And I said that Jordan is setting the bar in the region. Jordan today is at 27% renewable energy in its electricity. And we're talking about a country in a climate hotspot in an interesting neighborhood. And at the same time, meeting and exceeding its climate targets. 28.6% of the transport of the passenger vehicles, 21% of all transport in Jordan is hybrid and electric. And these are numbers that many developed countries are aspiring to reach. So with the sharp increase in population, with limited resources, we yet have set the bar high. We have clarity in the ask, and we have green as part and parcel of the economic modernization vision in Jordan, which takes us up to 2033. So we have a clear path for the next 10 years or 9 years now of where we are heading. So this relationship, you also have to cultivate and grow. You have to make sure that you are present, you communicate clearly, and you also have people coming and visiting you in Jordan or in your country and seeing things firsthand. So this is where we are now. This is where finance is. The NCQG should be achievable, available, accessible, and transparent. And it should be scaled significantly along with the Adaptation Fund. And for it to be transparent, we've heard what happened to the 100 billion. But I've asked many people who has put how much and who got how much. And I am yet to get a clear answer. So we're asking for a dashboard to be established where the whole world can see who is putting how much in the new NCQG and who's getting how much, so that we can share experiences as well. If one country is getting alongside of the bar, we'd like to go and talk to them. How did you manage to get that much access? And it's not about just getting the money, it's about getting finance to put into your green economy, to create jobs, especially for our youth, plucking them out of dangerous grounds of unemployment and into an active role in the society. And women as well. We need to underline that half of the society needs to be activated. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much, Minister, for that, and for mentioning the particular groups as well, including women, and the interconnectedness. It requires political will, it requires a clear vision from the top, and then clear asks and institutional capacity. So thank you for that. Let me now turn to Minister Annalise Dodds. You're UK Minister for Development at the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office. In your role, you focus on addressing big picture global challenges, including poverty, inequality and climate change, and are committed to ensuring that development aid is used effectively to promote sustainable growth and environmental resilience. Minister Dodds, I'll give you the floor. Would you like to share a bit more about the global challenges related to finance and how the UK is supporting efforts in countries to improve access to finance and effective programming? We've heard here mention a lot to some of the work the UK has already been doing. And what particular initiatives does the United Kingdom support?
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Rina, above all for comparing this important discussion. It's a real privilege to be here with this very distinguished panel, and I'm so grateful to all of you for being here as well. As has already been remarked, this is the end of what has been quite a long day for many of us, so I really appreciate the commitment to having this important discussion. And in that vein, I really don't want to speak for very long, because the whole point of this event is to hear from countries which are facing these kinds of challenges and what needs to change so that we can operate more effectively together. But I will offer just a few reflections. Thank you for the invitation, Rina, particularly from my position as the UK's new Minister for International Development and Minister for Women and Equalities as well. And the new UK government is really determined to modernise our approach to international development, to really centre it on genuine partnerships of respect with the Global South and ensuring that climate and nature and women and girls are at the heart of all that we do. We really want to make sure that as the UK, we're working hand in hand with countries on this agenda in the Global South. And just as was mentioned so powerfully by the Minister from Chad, we do see that those countries which have contributed the least to the production of the climate crisis now having to deal with some of the severest impact, as well as, of course, having to cope with significant numbers of displaced people as well, which has been the case in many of the countries represented here today. We know that globally, unless we get better at breaking the cycle, by the end of this decade, some 2/3 of people who are enduring extreme poverty will be living in vulnerable and conflict-affected communities. So we need to be working together better. We also know that climate finance is not delivering strongly enough. When it comes to this, let's face that reality. We're not where we need to be, despite the work of the Global Climate Fund and so many others. Over the last decade, the 10 most affected states in the world affected by vulnerability, by conflict and crisis, received just 2.1% of total global climate finance. The only way is up, and it's just too hard. Simply isn't going to cut it anymore. We have to do better. So that's why, as well as working towards making good on the UK's international climate finance pledge, as our Prime Minister and Foreign Secretary have underlined, we need to use our country's leverage as a donor to multilateral financial institutions, to the multilateral development banks, so that they innovate, work for everyone, and are fit for the future. That means shouldering more risk, and we took that message very much to the World Bank and IMF annuals recently. We have been working also alongside Rwanda to co-chair the task force on access to climate finance. And we're launching a new UK-backed Centre for Access to Climate Finance to help countries to secure the funding that they need to implement their plans and to really back the kind of leadership that we've been hearing about on the panel today. As the UK is co-chairing the Green Climate Fund at the moment in collaboration with the government of Somalia, which has been fantastic, and as we learn lessons from that task force, we've been really pleased to see some of the fruits of that coming forward, particularly the investment in Somalia, which has been great to see a real reflection of that leadership from Somalia in this area and from the Green Climate Fund as well. And we've been very pleased to work with Somalia, also with Chad, as well with Syria and Yemen, to start working towards anticipatory action and early warning systems as well, so that we can be acting together to save lives and to promote economic development. And today, I'm really pleased that we are announcing the fruits of some of that work together with Jordan, a new programme, £6 million programme, JAHES, which is in response to that climate refugee nexus coming from His Majesty, from Jordan, so that we can make sure that the Syrian refugees, a number of whom I met when I was in Jordan, so that they can work alongside their Jordanian neighbours to restore degraded land and water sources, reduce the impacts of flooding and the risks of drought, and introduce more resilient farming, very much recognising those pressures on water that His Excellency just mentioned. We hope that JAHES will demonstrate what's possible to give other funders and partners the confidence to work similarly with host communities and displaced populations right across the Middle East and in North Africa as well. So we have made progress, but we need to do far, far more, given the statistics I mentioned at the beginning. And really delighted that so many people have come for this conversation with us tonight at the end of a long day, and that we have such distinguished speakers on the panel with me. Thank you very much indeed.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you, Minister, so much for your thoughts and lessons, and also for the announcement on JAHES, and really showcasing how what's been politically fought for a long time, starting with the initiative from the Kingdom of Jordan on the refugee one and the declaration on climate relief and recovery, what it looks like on the ground, really, when it's financed. And we need to see more of that finance crowding into these types of programs. So if you allow, ministers always are very sharp and on time, so we're keeping on time in this panel, but we do have some time now for an interaction. And we have some questions from the floor, if I can please take some of those. Let me first go to UNHCR. I believe we have Mr. Theo James on the floor for a question. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Hi there. Thanks for having me. My name's Theo James. I'm a goodwill ambassador for the UNHCR, the UN Refugee Agency. Last year, I travelled with the UNHCR to Jordan, which has been obviously very generous, granting refugees access to its health and education system on par with nationals, and is one of the countries hosting the highest share of refugees per capita worldwide, as you discussed. It's also a country, again, facing severe impacts of climate change. Many of the refugees I met were dealing with long-term impacts of living in exile, having left Syria 12 years ago, and without jobs, many of them were in debt and struggling to provide for their families. Unfortunately, the UNHCR is responding to more and more global emergencies than ever before, and stretched budgets means cuts to shelter and education programs for refugees. However, obviously, as you've discussed, there's a lot of positivity. I was privileged to meet the brilliant Jordanians and refugees who run a solar plant which provides the camp with 100% of its electricity needs, which is incredibly impressive. And it's the first solar plant in the world, as you know, to be run in a refugee camp. I'd like to take the opportunity to thank the Minister for Jordan's continuing support for Syrian refugees. And I would like to ask if there are any other work opportunities in the green sector that Jordan is enabling, especially for young people from refugee and host communities that are vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. Thanks.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate your kind words, truly. Look, in creating jobs in Jordan, the economic modernization vision came about to create 1 million jobs over 10 years. So that's the target. And when we create jobs, and when I get asked about are there jobs, or is Jordan creating jobs for youth in Jordan in the green economy? I just have to say that look at the solar energy companies, look at the infrastructure contractors and consultants, look at the agricultural sector, especially when you look at the new forms of growing produce. All of these have young people working in them. The engineers working in these companies are young people. So yes, you know, the Jordanian youth are already integrated in the green economy. Now, how do we grow that so that it encompasses everybody that lives in Jordan? That's where the challenge is, because Jordan is really receiving a very, very, very small percentage of what it needs to support the refugee population. And I don't want to say the number, but it's quite small. And I think Her Excellency, the Minister of Planning and International Cooperation, has these numbers in a sharper way than I do. But it's also the role of the international community to come and step in and provide the resources needed for the refugees and the host communities, so that we can integrate them, create more jobs for both. And there have been many programs in these communities and the host communities that provided opportunities for work in agriculture and in all sorts of services. The employment rate in Jordan is something that is also important for us to find a solution for. So it's compounded by waves of people coming in. So we need to work together with the international community, and we need the international community to really step in fully to work with us to find solutions for this and to create more opportunities and jobs as well. I hope that answered your question, but this is the best way that I can answer it right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much, Minister, and thank you for the question. Let me now ask, there's others from the floor that want to come forward. Let me turn just briefly to Mercy Corps, David Nicholson, the Chief Climate Officer. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and thank you for this panel. It's really tremendous to see the progress being made in getting climate finance out to a broader array of countries over the last couple of years, so I really appreciate the comments from everybody. For those who don't know, Mercy Corps is a global humanitarian and development organization. We're working in 40 countries, supporting communities through complex challenges, this intersection of climate change and conflict that we know that affects so many. Our programming, we cover a rapid emergency response right the way through to agriculture and clean energy work, but always looking to figure out how do we help communities cope with those immediate impacts of climate change and adapt over time. One thing that we know, and one thing that we've seen across our portfolio, is that those communities that are impacted by poverty, conflict, displacement, are also geographically often highly vulnerable to the climate crisis. And the challenges from those other, the issues from those other development challenges really undermine the ability to develop good adaptation strategies. And this is the big challenge that we face. And my question is to the Minister from Chad. Could you just tell us some of the specific climate-related challenges that your communities are facing? And what are the best ways, beyond attaining finance, what are the best ways that you see of working with them to develop strategies to adapt to those challenges? Thank you.
Merci, monsieur. Merci pour la question. La question est très pertinente. Comme vous le savez, le Tchad est un pays entouré par des pays en conflit. En conflit, c'est-à-dire des pays en guerre. Et puis nous avons aussi, comment dirais-je, la secte Boko Haram qui nous attaque aux confins du lac Tchad. Et il y a récemment une attaque où le chef de l'État s'est même lui-même déplacé pour aller constater de visu ce qui s'est passé. Donc il y a beaucoup de défis qui nous attendent. Défis liés à la prise en charge de ces réfugiés qui viennent du Soudan. Et là, nous avons des moyens qui sont presque insuffisants pour pouvoir prendre en charge ces réfugiés. Nous sommes vraiment impactés par ces différentes populations qui viennent de la Libye, du Soudan, de la RCA, qui fuient des guerres. Et puis nous-mêmes, on est déjà vulnérables. Vous voyez? Donc nous sommes vraiment confrontés à ces premiers défis. Ça veut dire la non-prise en charge. Déjà, nous-mêmes, on souffre. Et d'autres cas qui viennent s'ajouter aux cas tchadiens. Donc c'est le premier défi à relever. C'est de prendre en charge ces différents différentes populations qui viennent un peu, un peu partout. Vous voyez un peu. Du coup, et puis la question aussi de leur prise en charge dans nos niveaux, dans nos différentes structures sociales, sanitaires et puis scolaires. Donc nous sommes vraiment en difficulté pour prendre en charge d'autres réfugiés. Et ils viennent nous polluer l'environnement aussi. Le Tchad est un État aussi, qui est très solidaire des autres populations qui vivent ces genres de situations. Nous, on vient chercher aussi des financements. C'est pour pouvoir aussi combler ces vides. Donc, Circe, je crois que j'ai quand même pu répondre à une partie de la question. Si je ne peux pas comprendre, vous pouvez me reposer la question pour que je puisse répondre. Merci beaucoup, monsieur. Je vais répondre.
Thank you for the question, and thank you, Minister, for your intervention. Let me now turn, please, to Her Excellency Ms. Toukan, the Minister of Planning and International Cooperation of the Kingdom of Jordan.
Thank you, Rina. And allow me to start by thanking the UK for convening us and convening this event today. Just a couple of comments before I have a question for Minister Dodds. For a country like Jordan, facing the double jeopardy of climate change and refugees, I cannot but also underscore the importance of climate finance, yet at a scale. Here, I just want to reiterate the importance of predictability, accessibility, speed, flexibility, and concessionality. I think while accessing all of these funds that are out there to help us to be able to deliver at scale and the impact that we're after. I think I also want to thank you on the launch of the JAHES program that we're about, to launch. I think also this built on previous initiatives that we had with the UK, tackling refugees as well as host communities. And we had the Jordan Compact in previous years, which helped us as part of our response to the refugee crisis. Minister, maybe quickly, a quick question. How is the UK encouraging work across sector silos to deliver the most for the most vulnerable, especially women and girls? Thank you.
Well, thank you very much indeed, Your Excellency, for that really important question and for the additional detail as well. And we think it is very important. There is indeed that work across sectors, particularly when it comes to ensuring that the needs of women and girls are taken into account. And I think we've heard from some really good examples, actually, of when there has been that cross-sector working that's so important. I mean, we think there are three lessons that have come out of that. First, that we need to be working together on planning and risk assessments as well, that we need to have a holistic approach to those and work in partnership on them. Secondly, we think it's really important to be supporting leadership and decision-making from within the communities that are served, because, of course, they don't recognise silos. They just see that their life is made harder, for example, and they can see solutions that don't fall within one particular climate fund or one particular multilateral initiative or one particular bilateral donors area. They just see a solution that they know needs support that will then unlock potential. And we believe that the voice of women and girls needs to be heard and heeded, not just because that's the right thing to do morally, but because we know that more diverse leadership actually unlocks better results. And indeed, your own leadership, if I may say so, Your Excellency, and that of our Somalian Minister on the panel, I think demonstrates that too. So, yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister, for the question and certainly for highlighting also there is not going to be a solution without the involvement of women, Minister Dodds. Let me now turn to a question on behalf of FAO, please.
Thank you. The FAO sends their apologies. I will be a poor substitute, but it's too good a question not to ask. So, to Minister Al-Makhzoumi, I'd like to ask, what kind of effective partnerships do you have planned to ensure the success of the GCF allocation to the FAO to build climate resilience in Somalia?
Thank you. This project is a huge amount for starting allocation, and this is what we are able to implement as well in these specific areas that agree with FAO, and GCF is the area we focus on the implementation with the private sector. And the private sector that we wanted to empower our private sector. How can they able work? Because it's been last 2 years we want to empower private sector to be part of the working together, and this is exactly what they're working of the GCF, and this is our focus of how can the government and the private sector could work together in specific climate change, because I believe in Somalia we cannot do alone the government of working about the fighting against the climate change. So we need really the private sector, and specifically in this project that we have agreed with the FAO partner, and how can, as well in the GCF, how can we able to do it implementation with the private sector. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. I'm just checking we have time. If there is one more question from the floor, we can take it. If you raise your hand and please explain. Just give your name and which organization or delegation you're from. Thank you.
My name is Omar Farouk Osman. I'm the General Secretary of the Federation of Somali Trade Unionists. And my question is to the UK Minister. As you know, Somalia has enshrined into law just transition, and it's the first country in Africa that made just transition law in the entire continent of Africa. What the UK can do to help Somalia to turn that law into a practice that the workers, trade unionists, communities can benefit from it. Thank you.
It's so interesting to hear about that development. I think we also see in South Africa really interesting work in this area as well, with the Just Energy Transition Partnership, and in many other African countries where the voice of the workforce is being heard around this, but of course also more broadly ensuring that there's inclusion around these questions, that applies to women and girls, that it applies also to ethnic minorities where that is the case within that country, to disabled people as well, and to other minority groups. I think it's very important, but I think we are all as countries working through this. I come, and I've spoken with some in this room about this before, I come from an oil and gas producing region. I know how important it is to ensure that there will be a jobs-rich transition rather than a transition which pulls jobs, livelihoods and prosperity away from people. So we do need to work together on this, and really interesting to hear about that work in Somalia. Thank you, and I'm sure really interesting development on this in the other countries represented and with the GCF as well. Thank you.
Thank you, and ministers, thank you very much. Given your schedule, and I believe there are still more engagements to go, I thank you so much for your time. As you can see, you've brought in a full room, and it's been a really, really interesting conversation. Your knowledge and depth of leadership and vision is really, really impressive. Just a couple of words to conclude, and thank those that have participated. The countries that are heavily impacted, least responsible for this climate crisis, are clearly not waiting. And we've heard incredible examples of what Chad, Somalia and Jordan are doing, whilst also paying their part in terms of international obligations, as we've heard about the support that refugees are given in your countries. So it's contributing and also moving at the same time. The international community needs to be doing more. We've heard great initiatives that are happening, and thank you for the announcement on the Jahez and the Green Climate Fund, obviously. But we need to be, and I think we've heard a whole range of words, we need financing that is smarter, faster, quicker, and more transparent and scalable, which is the issue that we're all facing at this COP. And let's hope that the political will comes for a new collective goal on financing. Genuine partnerships have come through very much, and we've seen that, including amongst our panelists who are working together. And this is our common problem, and we need to find common solutions for these issues. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.